The story of a man literally experiencing someone else do his mom, the disgusting experience of two close people betraying you, another dad unknowingly being with their child's ex, and a hilarious but wholesome end to someone who is the most clueless on the planet. Yes, today's video theme is definitely my parent has a Jocasta complex, so let's dive in. I'm a 24-year-old male, and I feel like I'm losing my mother, 54, to her husband, who's 25. This story is titled as an update, however, there is no history of their previous post, but in this post they do summarize the entire thing for us. I posted here about a year back seeking advice about my situation. Unfortunately, things have gotten rather tense again lately, so giving it another try. If this is the first time you are reading this, that is not a typo. My mother married someone who's a year older than me. He was born on January of 97, and myself in March of 98. She's a professor at a university, and he was her student during his freshman year and quickly became one of her favorite students. After he completed her class, their relationship quickly turned into a romance. Sounds like a bad one. Lady Gaga would be proud. They married in the fall of 2017. I reluctantly attended to support my mother. Shortly after the wedding, she became pregnant. They welcomed a daughter in September of 2018, a second in July of 2019, a third in May of 2020, and a fourth in February of 2020, a fifth in November of 2021, and a sixth in October of 2022. What? Guys, slow down, please. That poor woman's pelvis. From the moment I met him, I was not a fan. He comes from a privileged family. He's also a very intelligent individual with good looks and lots of confidence. All things that are clearly a recipe for a very successful life, which he already has at 25. Last year, he graduated with a PhD. He is already working as a vice president at his family's financial institution. After his father, he is next in line to run the entire business. Now, I have no problem acknowledging his success and applaud him for his hard work, especially when he could just essentially live off his parents for free. However, he has made it his duty to notify my mother of his concerns about my own life. She would never admit it, but based on comments she's made and changes in her personality since hooking up with him, he has basically told her to stop supporting me financially and to let me suffer the consequences of working a dead-end job. College quite simply wasn't for me, and I work in the maintenance and facility department for a large medical center. Wow, what a dead-end useless job to have. Literally keeping a hospital afloat. Ugh, so pointless. I had an incredibly strong bond with my mother before he came along. My dad walked out of the picture when I was 18 months old, and it had always been just the two of us. Despite my struggles, she has always been the most amazing, loving, caring, and supportive caretaker I could have ever asked for. She never dated, and made it her full-time job, along with teaching, to provide the best care and to protect me. I knew she would eventually meet a guy, and I truly wanted that for her. I just can't accept this guy and what he's done. I really try to look at the positives. I adore my little sisters. They are adorable and clearly make my mom happy. She always wanted a daughter, and I'm happy she was able to get her wish at this point in her life. Aside from that, though, I'm honestly heartbroken. A few weeks back, we got into an argument on the phone pertaining this issue. I finally brought up my concerns about him and told her how I honestly felt about him. She immediately jumped to his defense and essentially told me that she will always side with him because he's her husband and cares for her more than anyone ever has. She confirmed many of my suspicions about him saying things behind my back, and instead of standing up for me, she defended what he said in a very subtle way. My mother had made it clear she sided with her husband over me. After the call, I found myself in a deep depression and extremely anxious because my mom was always my go-to person. I have a stable job and am currently renting a room from someone, but if something terrible were to happen, don't know what I would do. I don't have many friends, and the few I do are also renting rooms or one-bedroom apartments, so I would have nowhere to go should something happen to my job. My mother and I hadn't spoke since that call. 5 weeks have gone by, easily the longest we had gone without talking. Last evening, my phone started ringing. It was her. I immediately answered and felt a sense of relief. I figured she was going to apologize for what was said, and we would be able to start the reconciliation process. Instead, my mother announced her pregnancy to me. She told me that she missed me and hoped I could get over everything soon, making no attempt to take any blame in all of the drama. I was cordial and congratulated her, telling her that I have been busy with work, which isn't a lie, and that I would call her to set up something soon. She told me she loved me, I reciprocated, and the call was over. I am still feeling devastated. These past few weeks have been pure agony for me. I figured my mother had finally come around and was ready to, at the absolute least, hear my side of things a bit more. Instead, nothing. I don't even know where to go from here. I don't know if I can just go on as if everything is fine. At the same time, I don't want to perpetuate the tension further. Top comment questions if your mother is a freaking predator after this. Others are even skeptical this is possible as a woman in her age, which arguably isn't actually too surprising considering the oldest woman to ever give birth was 74. Still, whether or not this woman could have so many babies isn't really the issue here. Now, I'm gonna shoot an opinion here that's probably gonna be a bit on edge. But firstly, just to, confront the idea of it, I think you might just be jealous. You've experienced this life with her where she's thought you're the only man she's needed in her life, so to speak. Like, this could probably be a legitimate case of Jocasta complex in a way. And here comes a stranger, weirdly around the same age as you? But this one, she can sleep with. No, I don't genuinely think that's the case. I think this is definitely more of a case where this woman now has raised you to be an adult. You're now independent. She's feeling a sense of loss from that because she no longer really has much of an identity aside from her work now. Then here comes along someone who is willing to give her that experience of being a mother once more, or at least being loved like a partner. Yeah, of course she's gonna dive headfirst into that opportunity. And then here are you, someone who's grown up feeling like you were the whole center of her world as her son. Now here not only comes another man in her life, but another man who's almost exactly similar to you in age as the sorts. Would that imply for you to get over yourself? Absolutely not. I think many people with these comments are in the right here. You were totally valid to feel somewhat betrayed and left behind, especially when this partner is trying to stab you in the back. TLDR, I think, as some people agree here, you probably should just cut them out of your life or go see therapy about this, because your mother is clearly not going to care to consider giving you some sort of apology about her new wonderful life. That's not the only off-my-chest story. We're having a weird theme around parents being creepy with younger people. Just under a month ago, we had this disturbing story. I just caught my girlfriend having it on with my dad. So, to start, I'm a 22-year-old male. I've been with my soon-to-be ex-girlfriend, Kate, fake name, female 21, for just shy of 3 years. Our relationship throughout the 3 years has been amazing. She had always been kind and supportive and very open and honest with me. We had dates often, our love-making life was great. We had very few arguments, but when we did get into a disagreement, we managed to communicate and come to an understanding before long. I believed our relationship to be healthy and loving, but apparently I was wrong. On to the story. Okay, I swear, it's always when they're being kind and supportive and very open and honest. That's when they're cheating. It's just every single time in these stories. So there you go, folks. If you want to get into a good relationship and keep it lasting long, be an absolute piece of shit. About a week ago, I had started to notice that Kate was becoming very touchy about me being on or around her phone. This was odd to me because not only had she always let me use her phone to make calls if mine was flat or I didn't have immediate access to mine, but she had also downloaded games for me to play on her phone so she could distract me when she wanted to watch her shows. Kate began snapping at me for asking to borrow her phone or snatching it out of my hand if I was so much as moving it away from the edge of the counter so it wouldn't fall, and whenever I questioned her behavior, she brushed it off and explained she was just in a bad mood. Her constant dismissal of my noticeable confusion began to annoy me, so I asked her if she was hiding anything from me, which led to an argument about her saying I was accusing her of infidelity and not trusting her, and began trying to get physical with me, in which case I shut the argument down and told her to sleep in the guest bedroom. She was very angry about it, but I told her we would talk about it in the morning. Talk about it, she apologized for her behavior and gave me her phone. I told her I trusted her, and I didn't need to go through it, and to be frank, I did trust her, and I believed her outburst to be due to the ongoing stress at work, which was clearly stupid of me. The next day, I noticed she had gotten a missed call from my father. I had never known my father to like Kate or even have her contact at that. In fact, I was convinced they both disliked each other. At any and every family event, they would often argue or make snarky remarks at one another until we would have to leave due to the tense atmosphere they had created. So I decided to ask Kate why my father had called her. She physically froze and mumbled an excuse about it being my birthday soon and he had planned something, but my father and I were never really close, so I didn't understand why he would, but I played it off and decided to go about my day. Then the following night, I had texted her explaining that I had a late shift and I would be back around 10 p.m. the latest, which I did. We ended up being dismissed early due to an incident regarding our manager and a few staff, so I was heading home by 7 p.m. I tried calling her, but she had her phone off, so I assumed it had gone flat, or she had turned it off, which she does often at home. When I made it home, I noticed my father's car 2 houses down from ours, so I tried calling him, but his phone was also turned off, which I found odd because my mother likes his phone to be on so she can call him when she needs him. She's handicapped. I assumed my mother was with him, so I opened the door quietly to surprise her, as I haven't seen her in a while, and I was met with the sight of my girlfriend over the kitchen counter with my father behind her. Both froze and started profusely yelling and telling me that it wasn't what it looked like and that they could explain, but I shut and locked the door from the outside, deadbolt, and made my way to a friend's house. Since then, they've both been blowing up my phone, apologizing and begging me not to say anything to anyone. And quite frankly, I'm just disgusted. Disgusted in my father who is turning 60 next month and has my mother to take care of, and disgusted in Kate, who was getting railed by my father for who knows how long. I honestly just want to throw up and set them both on fire. But I'm most worried about how my mother will take the situation, as she's very dependent on my father and adores him. How should I go about this? I don't need closure or to confront them. I don't want to know how their gross relationship started or how long it's been going on for. I just need advice on how to approach the situation without causing a bigger mess than there is. Any advice is welcome. Thank you for reading. The comments below went straight to the fact of, yes, you need to tell your mother about this. Obviously, this is a terrible experience. Much sympathy. Probably get yourself checked. So with that said, we move on to the update that was 5 days later. A small update summary, for those who didn't see my small update. As per someone's advice, I asked my mother to lunch, and after some small talk, informed her of the situation. She was understandably upset and in denial about the situation, as my father had spoken to her prior about me still holding a grudge, a story for another time, and that I would be likely to come up with a lie to turn her against him for revenge. But after showing her the messages they had sent afterward, she was distraught and visibly angry about the ordeal. I then asked her if she would be comfortable with me sending an email to our relevant family members and Kate's parents and siblings, and while she was a little reluctant about it, she had said she didn't want the backlash from his family for leaving him. I then did just that. I sent an email explaining the situation and that my mother and I would be going no contact with both Kate and my father, and low contact with anyone who gave either of us any grief for our decision. Now she is staying with her older sister, while I'm with a close mate until we can figure out a stable living situation for us both. So essentially, he's gone scorched earth, which is great. Time to see the fallout. Now, onto the actual update. After the email was sent, there was radio silence for a day or two before my mother and I were bombarded with a mix of messages that I'll just summarize in small paragraphs. Kate's parents were evidently enraged that I accused their daughter of such a thing, and that they would be suing me for defamation on their daughter's behalf. I then took the liberty of sending them the screenshots from both Kate's and my father's messages, and they left me on scene for a couple of days before replying to me and informing me that while they wouldn't sue me, they would appreciate if I kept the situation under wraps. They can go flip themselves. My father was the first to message my mother, attempting to convince her that I staged the messages and that I was being petty and lying. And when she wouldn't believe him, he accused her of cheating on him and trying to find a way out of their marriage, which evidently isn't possible for my mother, as she has trouble getting from place to place on her own. He then apologized and told her he was just frustrated and asked to see her, and when she declined, he again accused her of cheating and staying with her lover while abandoning him. Wow, what an incredible projector. I hope he's on sale. My maternal grandparents and paternal grandparents had very different messages, and not in the way I thought they would. My paternal grandparents apologized for his behavior and told my mother that if she needed support in the future, they were available, and informed her they would be disowning and going no contact with my father. My maternal grandparents, however, despite being the people that raised her, told her that due to her injury and not being able to fulfill her husband's needs, it was only right of him to look elsewhere for fulfillment. And while they understood that it was wrong because it was my partner, Kate was available for him, and my mother should forgive him and move on. They also made a point to state that my mother needs my father more than he needs her. I think I need to take a second to really fathom that sort of response. Just wow. Kate's two older sisters reached out and thanked me for telling them and informed us that if we, my mother and I, needed any assistance in the future in regards to my mother's health, as one is an elderly caretaker and the other is a physiotherapist, that they were willing to help. These aren't all the messages, but they're the relevant ones. I'll make a part 2 so this post doesn't get too long. So, on to part 2. My mother and I gave ourselves a few days to get through all the messages and phone calls and blocked my maternal grandparents as well as my father. My mother didn't already have them blocked. I contacted my landlord and real estate agent and informed them briefly on the situation, and I was no longer living on the premises and that I would like to have my name taken off the lease. Luckily, our lease was being renewed in that coming week, and the next day they contacted Kate to inform her that I had taken my name off the lease for the following month, and in the next week, if she was unable to take on my portion of rent, she would have 3 months to vacate the property. Now, I don't know how she reacted, but I could tell it wasn't overly ecstatic, as her parents contacted me and asked if, despite everything, I would be willing to pay for her rent. Just for this month, because she doesn't have the money for it at the moment. Her legs clearly wide open enough to make up for it, though. Obviously, I declined and told them that I no longer have anything to do with her anymore. They then informed me she was pregnant with my child and needed assistance from the father of her baby, and this would be a last goodbye. I then laughed and told them I most definitely wasn't the father of that baby if she was pregnant, and if she needed assistance from her baby daddy, to contact my father. Then I hung up and blocked them. On a brighter note, my mother and I have just put a down payment on a house together and are looking into hiring a caregiver to help my mother for when I have work or trips out of state. My father has attempted to call both of us from multiple phone numbers and had numerous family members try to persuade my mother into meeting up with him to chat. And as a result, my mother and I have gotten a new phone number to avoid his mess. Also happened to hear from a mate that Kate is trying to hire a lawyer so she can get child support money from me. But apparently, because she has no proof I'm the father and refuses to take a DNA test of the baby, she hasn't had any luck. A final edit, I forgot to mention it above as I didn't see it as important when writing this, but Kate is apparently 5 weeks pregnant. We haven't been intimate for just under 2 months, so the baby is unlikely to be mine. If it is, I will pay child support, but I want proof before I pay her money for a baby that may or may not be mine. And under these circumstances, very fair enough. So I think in this instance, the Scorched Earth policy absolutely worked in your favor. Beautiful to see how ridiculous her parents reacted to all this. Leaves little to the imagination as to where her scumminess came from. Overall, a trashy situation that they seem to have come out pretty well despite it all. Definitely recommend the OP goes to therapy for all this because yeah, you're definitely not going to just be able to walk this sort of experience off when you get back into the dating field. Sticking to the off-my-chest territory, we move on to an equally confusing but less traumatizing experience. How so? Well, you'll find out. My dad, who's 38 male, is marrying my ex-girlfriend, 26 female. I'm 24 female, and this is all such a mess, and I really don't know how I'm supposed to feel about it. For some backstory, my dad isn't my biological father. He and my egg donor started dating when I was 2 and got married when I was 4, and then got divorced when I was 16. Honestly, I was far closer to my dad than I was to my egg donor, and my egg donor would regularly abuse both of us. Explains why you refer to them as just an egg donor. After the divorce, he tried to stay in touch with me, but my egg donor purposely isolated him from me because she was so mad that he finally became confident enough in himself to escape from her abuse. She was able to get a protective order placed on both of us to completely limit contact after the divorce, and then financially blackmailed me to continue to isolate me from him while she paid for my college. As soon as I graduated from college when I was 21, I completely cut off contact with her and reached out to him again. Even though it had been over 5 years since we last spoke at that point, I was very happy to have him in my life again. My ex-girlfriend and I dated while I was in college. I was pretty low-key about the relationship because I was pretty sure if my mom ever found out I was a lesbian, she would also cut me off completely. We started dating when I was 18 and dated for almost 3 years. I also never told my dad about her, since we broke up only a few months after we reconnected. He did comfort me through the breakup, but he never met her or really knew anything about her. That brings us to last night. My dad and I had a standing dinner date for every other Wednesday, but we've both been busy for the last month, so I haven't seen him since before Thanksgiving. He told me that he would be bringing his girlfriend to tag along, and I have to admit that I was both sad, because it wouldn't be just the two of us like it normally is, but also excited to finally meet her. Unfortunately, once I reached the restaurant, absolutely floored to see my dad sitting there with my ex-girlfriend. I'm absolutely shocked to see them together, and when my dad introduces her to me, he introduces her as his fiancée and tells me that he wanted me to be the first to know. Apparently, they got engaged 2 weeks ago, but hadn't told anyone except for her parents, who I've even met before. I must have had a shocked look on my face, because he starts going into this whole thing about how he knows that I might be uncomfortable with him dating a girl who's so close in age to me, and how the age gap concerned him too, especially because of my egg donor. Well, I would never compare him to her, since she was literally a groomer who started dating her tutoring student when he was 17, and then married him when he was 19. The entire time I was talking to him though, I was staring right at my ex-girlfriend in complete shock. It ended up being way too weird for me, so I just told them that I needed to go after like 5 minutes. My dad texted me again today telling me how he was so sorry to ambush me with that information, and that he was sorry that it came off the way it had. He told me again that he understood if the age gap made me uncomfortable, but he hoped I didn't think he was some kind of creep for dating a woman so much younger than him. He then told me that he felt like he was truly happy for the first time in the last 20 years, and he hoped that I could come to accept this, even if it took me a long time. I, on the other hand, am just completely lost. I'm pretty sure he doesn't know that we dated, and I really don't know whether or not I should tell him. I don't have anyone to go about this, since this is literally the person I would vent to normally, so I just decided to let it out here. Edit. Just clarifying again that my dad is not my biological father. My egg donor was a groomer and an abuser, but at least she didn't do that. Still doesn't excuse starting to date a 17-year-old at the age of 30, but whatever. Interestingly, some people in the comments are suspicious that the ex-girlfriend has done this on purpose, but they make up in an edit, so I'm going to text my ex-girlfriend. I know most of you think she already knew or that she targeted him or something, but I just don't believe that. For one, my dad and I don't have the same last name, and like I mentioned in a comment, we look nothing alike since he is Asian and I am white. Also, never told my ex that he was not my biological father or even told him his name. Do people do that? I don't think I've ever even said my dad's name when referring to him. That's so weird to me. I just always called him my dad. Only thing I told my ex about was the past, that my egg donor forced my dad away from me, and I didn't really talk about it besides that because it hurt too much. Did tell her when my dad and I started reconnecting, but our relationship was already pretty much ending at that point. Like I said, there wasn't really any animosity or anything, sort of fell out of love with each other. She initiated the breakup, but after talking through it, it was completely mutual. Anyway, since I don't know whether or not she knew, and I have no reason to believe that she was going out of her way to date my dad, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt and tell her that she needs to tell him, and that if she doesn't, I will. Also, some of you asked me why I haven't told him already and why I said nothing at dinner. I want all of you to understand how important my dad is to me. I had to lose him for so long, so I do treat our relationship with some extra care sometimes. I also feel extremely guilty about what happened to him, and I can't help but feel like it's partially my fault that he lost so much of his life. Almost certain that part of the reason he even stayed with my egg donor for so long was because of me. He was going through physical and emotional abuse on a daily basis, and a significant portion of it was to protect me from her as well. I'm pretty sure if he didn't love me as much as he did, and if he wasn't so scared how much worse my egg donor would treat me without him around to protect me, he would have left much sooner. I feel terrible about the idea of him being happy finally and me ruining it by telling him the truth. And that, boys and girls and non-binary pals, is why we never tell people the truth sometimes. Ignorance is bliss. Have to agree with one of the top comments here. Why did the ex-girlfriend not say something, or at least show some sort of shock as well? Like, maybe the OP didn't notice it because they themselves were too wrapped up in their own head. But still, agreed, is really weird. So a few days after the original post, they come up with an update, and it is a long one, and oh my gosh. So yes, the father does find out, and no, the ex-girlfriend didn't target him, but she does something much worse. So, I wasn't really planning on making another post, but I've gotten multiple messages asking for one, and then I was scrolling through TikTok when I suddenly saw my post come up. It was actually bizarre, since I've only had a handful of Reddit posts come up on TikTok. I remember that guy who played that weird song whenever he had intimacy with his girlfriend before. Most of the messages were really nice, except for the handful of people who told me that I should have a threesome with my dad and my ex. Like, seriously, what is wrong with you people? Anyway, I figured I'd let you all know what's happened since things have settled down a bit. This is going to be pretty long, so in case you just want to know the conclusion, my dad and Steph, my ex, are no longer together, my dad and I are fine, and I'm looking forward to putting this all behind us. Oh, but if you think it didn't end dramatically, and with someone being an A-grade piece of schmidt, oh, you are in for a surprise. Now for the longer story. I would just like to remind everyone that my dad is technically my stepdad, but he's the only father figure I've ever had, and I've always just called him my dad. So, as I mentioned as an edit to my last post, I was planning on texting Steph. I did end up texting her, and like 5 minutes later, she called me. We talked for like half an hour, and she basically told me that she was just as surprised as I was, and that she had no idea my dad was also her boyfriend. She said she was still reeling and was planning on telling him soon, but didn't know how to do it. I already know that some of you are going to ask her how I believed this. To answer a few questions I saw in the post, my dad doesn't have social media except for LinkedIn, and doesn't really have any pictures of me in his house. I also don't really use social media very much in an effort to keep the woman who gave birth to me out of my life. Only picture I've ever seen is one from my college graduation, and that one is just in his office. A lot of people also assumed that Steph and I went to the same college. I did meet her while I was in college, but we did not go to school together. I honestly just assumed my dad didn't really talk about me all that much, especially since our relationship was still in the early stage of reconnecting. I will admit that the comments did sort of get to me, and they did make me kind of suspicious. But I decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. So, at the end of the call with Steph, she told me that she was going to talk to him that night. I agreed and stayed by my phone, but never got a call from my dad, which I thought was weird. I called Steph in the morning and asked her if she'd talked to him. She said she had, and that he just needed some space right now. She said it would be best if I didn't talk to him about it, and there's a very scummy reason for that. Well, I thought that was really weird, so I decided to text my dad anyway. I asked him if Steph had talked to him, and he said they had. I asked him if he wanted to talk about it, and he said he would prefer not to, and that he thought it would be best if we just took a step back from our relationship. He said that he was really dealing with a lot, and this was all extremely hard for him. I have to say, I was pretty heartbroken when he said that, and it really got me thinking. A lot of you asked me if I'd be okay with my dad marrying Steph, and honestly, I really wouldn't be. I don't really like the idea of him dating anyone just because of how easily he's manipulated. I knew he had been in a relationship, but I'd always told him that I didn't really want to hear about it, and that all that mattered was that he was happy. So we never really talked about his romantic life. However, I realized that even if I wasn't happy about it, and even if I seriously hated it, I wouldn't want to risk losing my dad over it. He mattered way more to me. So, I decided I'd give him a day, and then went over to his place on Sunday. He looked pretty uncomfortable when he saw me, but I wasn't taking no for an answer, so he let me in. We sat in silence for a few moments, before I basically just told him that we needed to talk about this. He was pretty quiet, and he was pretty much sitting as far as he could from me. So I told him that I really didn't want my previous relationship with Steph to change my relationship with him, and that I was okay with them getting married. He looked kind of confused, and what being friends with Steph had to do with any of it, so it was my turn to be confused. So I asked him if Steph talked to him again. He said she had, and he didn't really know how to deal with the information. It really seemed like he was tiptoeing around the subject and he wouldn't even look me in the eyes. So I finally just asked him what Steph said. She told him I was in love with him. That's right. This crazy, manipulative, word I can't use here apparently, really told him that I had admitted my intimate attraction for him years ago. Apparently, her story was that we were friends, not girlfriends, just friends, when I was in college, and that we'd gotten really close, and I told her my secret. I was pretty appalled to learn that she said that, but I had told her about how the woman who gave birth to me had claimed that my dad and I had an illicit and inappropriate relationship to get the protective order. She knew that would be a sensitive topic for my dad, and apparently she encouraged him to take some space away from me. Okay, this may seem harsh, but considering his history with women he's dated, I'm kind of not surprised he's gotten back with someone who ends up being manipulative. At that point, I was enraged. I couldn't believe she would really do something like that. After that, I told him the truth. I told him about how Steph and I had dated years ago, and how I was pretty sure she made all of that up so I wouldn't tell him. He believed me pretty quickly, especially when I showed him a picture of the present she gave me for our first anniversary. My dad didn't really say anything besides just apologizing to me over and over again and telling me how sorry he was for believing her. I told him it was okay and we just hugged it out. After that, he called up Steph and asked her to come over. I've honestly never seen him like that. He's normally such a happy guy, but the look on his face was terrifying. Steph did end up coming, and it looked like she knew what was going to happen because she was just staring at the floor. I won't lie, when I saw her, I really wanted to just rip her hair out of her head, but sitting beside my dad really helped keep me calm. My dad told her that he knew the truth. Steph apologized over and over again to both of us. Apparently, she had no idea that I was his daughter at the beginning of the relationship, and she didn't make the connection until they had been dating for over a year and had started discussing marriage. She said that she felt like it was too late at that point, and that she felt like she couldn't lose him. That was apparently why she pushed back on the idea of meeting me, and why she really didn't want to have that dinner with me either, although she told him that it was because of the age gap, and that she was afraid of me judging her. Apparently, she was the one who convinced him that I'd be really against the relationship because of the age gap. She said that she told him the story about us being friends and me admitting my fantasies about my dad to her because she hoped that it would keep the two of us apart. When I asked her if she was really going to ruin my relationship with my dad over a lie like that forever, she said that she was going to tell the truth once they were married, since she was sure he wouldn't want to go through a divorce again. Apparently she would never dream of separating you two again. What a load of bull smack that was. Steph was crying pretty much the whole time, and getting all of the information out of her was like pulling teeth. But eventually we learned the truth. Or at least as much of it as we could. She begged him not to end their relationship, but my dad was pretty much just done with it at this point. That's when she really started going hysterical, and I swear she had a full mental breakdown. She kept screaming at me how I ruined her life, and I was honestly scared she was going to hurt me or my dad. Luckily, she didn't, and she did calm down after a while, although she was still curled up on the floor. I felt pretty bad for her seeing her like that. But then I remembered what she tried to do, and I just got angry all over again. I'm guessing some of my dad's neighbors called the police because they knocked at the door asking about a domestic disturbance. My dad is really scared of the police because of how the woman who gave birth to me had weaponized them against him in the past, so I ended up going to talk to them. Steph tried to grab me as I walked to the door, but she couldn't even get herself off of the floor. I told the police that she was refusing to leave, and eventually they were able to escort her out. My dad and I were pretty shaken up about that, but we decided to try getting some takeout and watching one of our favorite movies together. We were pretty much hugged together the entire time, and we fell asleep on the couch together. It felt so good. I was just so happy. So that's that. Steph is officially out of my dad's life, and I have convinced him to change the locks so she doesn't try to get in here again. I've also tried convincing him to try to get a protective order against her, but he isn't willing to do that just yet. He's convinced that he's not going to be able to get one, so it would be a waste of time, but the woman who gave birth to me had done it pretty easily, so I figured there was a good chance anyway. Especially with the police report, I'm guessing the officers had to file. In the meantime, I'm going to stay with him. at least until he gets the locks changed. I told him I'd like to move in here with him once my lease ends in March, and he told me he'd think about it. Right now, I just want to be around my dad. So I hope you're all satisfied with the update. I can't say I'm happy about everything that happened, but I really am glad my dad and I are okay. Felt really bad about what happened, especially for my dad, but I think he just needs to take some time away from dating, especially because of how many times things have gotten messed up for him. He agrees, and he said that he thinks he'd just like to focus on work and building up our relationship as well. I really hope that I can help him through all of this. I think this top comment summarizes it perfectly for me. Of all the roads I thought this story was going to take, this one wasn't even on the map. Holy Schmidt. Yeah, that road was on an entirely new map. I think we're actually in the Milky Way at this point. I suppose it makes a lot of sense now why the ex-girlfriend didn't seem to react as crazily shocked as OP was at the start. So it's nice to get the answer on that mystery. And especially considering her crazy burst after being caught out, I'm not surprised she enacted such a plan that was doomed to fail. Anyway, another horrible situation that ends rather good, so at least there's that. Now, you lovely snacks, it's time to read another Today I Fricked Up. Come on a journey of an experience where you are constantly pulling at your hair and smacking your face facepalm style, because today I fricked up when I, a 19-year-old male, missed all of the signs that my roommate, 22-year-old female, was interested in me. My roommate moved out this morning. She's immigrating. The two of us have shared an apartment for almost 2 years. I've always been attracted to her. I didn't want to be that guy who tried to frick the first female roommate he got. So I did my best to keep our relationship as platonic as possible. However, last night, being the last night my roommate and I were going to be roommates, I decided to tell her that I always thought she was attractive. I also made it clear that I didn't expect anything to happen. I just wanted to get it off my chest so we could laugh about it without worrying that it might be awkward the next day and the day after that, etc. My roommate playfully punched me on my shoulder and said she gave me so many opportunities. I had no idea what she was talking about, which prompted her to provide the following examples. 1. When we were dancing in the club and the song finished, our faces were so close together, our foreheads were literally touching. But instead of kissing her at that moment, I apparently rolled my eyes to the back of my head and asked if I looked like Storm in X-Men. For those who don't know who that is, it's this. This is the person. Oh my god. 2. When she asked me to show her what kind of intimate stuff I enjoyed watching, I showed her mine and she volunteered to show me hers. We were sitting on the couch, watching people frick, and I still did nothing. 3. When I was hospitalized, she said she would be happy to nurse me when I get home, but only if I promised to wear nothing but my hospital gown. Oh my god, this is really stressing me out, I'll be honest. 4. When she asked me for a piggyback ride to her room when she was done showering and only wearing a towel. 5. When she confessed to sleeping in one of my shirts because I was away for the weekend and she wanted to feel close to me. I can go on. It was a long list, but this was the top 5 for me. It seemed so obvious now, but at the time I was freaking clueless. I think I was too focused on not crossing that line that my brain completely blocked out any signs of intimate chemistry. My roommate and I laughed about it, but deep down I was so angry at myself for losing out on what could have been a more exciting experience because I was unable to connect the dots. Just gonna say this right now for any guys who are living with women in a similar housemate situation. This is the exception, not the rule. Just because this guy had this experience with this one girl doesn't mean that every girl you are going to be living with is keen to bounce you. So just, make the same approach, but also keep that door closed, but, always look through the peephole every now and again. Top comment here too. I feel that there is also another important missed opportunity here. 6. When she mentions all the many previous times I'd misunderstood her intentions the night before she moved out, clearly hoping to prompt one wild night of no-strings-attached intimacy, and yet I still did nothing about it! The comments are rife with sexual frustration. The top comment ain't kidding too. Look at what OP says here. So, did you bang? Nope. But our goodnight hug was really intimate. It was like we didn't want to let go of each other. I have no doubt in my mind that at some point the two of us considered doing something together, but nothing happened. And I believe that was for the best. She's beginning her life somewhere else, and I wouldn't want to complicate that. I have no doubt in my mind that at some point the two of us considered doing something intimate. Oh, no way! What makes you think that? Yeah, well, I thought the part where she literally told him she wanted to frick him and her long list of blatant moves strongly suggested that she wanted, in fact, to frick him. My man, this is really wholesome and sweet of you to consider this and be, mature about this, but god damn it, man, just give her what she wants! Mutually frustrated edging aside, we move on to the update of this though. That's right, this story has an update, where OP's decided to contact the ex-roommate and actually confess her feelings properly. Good man. Okay, so I'm gonna refer to my roommate as my friend because we're no longer roommates. She's in the UK now. I video called her this morning. She showed me her new house and thanked me for secretly packing one of my shirts in her luggage. It was the same shirt she slept in when I was away, and she was alone in our apartment. Based on the strong reactions I received in my original post, I decided to tell my friend that I feel like the biggest idiot for letting her slip through my fingers, and I regret not making one single move when she gave me so many chances. At some point, she had to tell me to take a breath, because I couldn't stop talking about all the times I thought about telling her how hot she was. I had my own list this time. A list of random moments when I almost shared my feelings with her. She asked if I was still a virgin, which caught me off guard, not gonna lie. I awkwardly said yes. My friend said she had a feeling that was the case, and asked me more questions to establish how experienced or inexperienced I was when it came to the opposite attraction. I answered honestly, which was embarrassing because I've never been in a relationship and I've done nothing more than kiss a few girls in the past. My friend said, hear me out, and suggested that we pretend to be roommates during our video call. Then she said I should forget about the missed opportunities and focus on the fact that she wanted me just as much as I wanted her. I had to imagine that we were still sharing an apartment. She never moved out, and we were both about to make the first move. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but for the very first time ever, we were very clear about what we wanted to do with each other. The things she said to me were very exciting. She actually convinced me to, yep, we're just going to move on from that. More might have happened, but a random bug flew past her and she freaked out. It was hilarious. Anyway, that is my update. It's not the biggest success story, but it's something. I don't know what any of this means for my friend and I, but it's been an interesting journey so far, and I hope it continues. Ah, yes, truly the greatest poet of a generation. Hey, question, because now I'm emotionally invested in this lol. Was the move permanent, or after some time will she come back? OP says, I'm not exactly sure how permanent it is, but she's not sure either. The company she now works for is based in the UK, but she's working on a fixed-term contract that gets renewed after a year, so it's unclear for how long she will be employed. Time will tell. For now, she's convinced she made the right decision because it's a good opportunity. I hope it all works out for her over there. Of course, everyone is just desperate for him to hurry up and fly to the UK. Congrats on the boner! Ha! I got a rise out of this. I almost laughed, but I kept a stiff upper lip. Things are looking up. Thanks guys, these puns really lifted me up. You're welcome, masturbation abrasion. That is a brave and hard thing OP did. OP, when they're on the verge of orgasm with roommate and still not sure about the signals, rolls eyes into the back of her head. Do I look like Storm? Alright my friends, that is the end of today's video. Thank you once again for watching and enjoying yourself. Remember to drink water because it's a fluid and you need those things. Yum yum yum, gobble gobble gobble. Really shouldn't say that word when we've just talked about someone's boner. That's, yep, ew. Okay, anyway, you be good, love your face, bye.